Hey guys, so Sandy here, and if you clicked on this, you are trying to learn the F and the B chord. And they're not easy, as you've probably already figured it out. So you're probably looking for a couple of tips, and well, that's where I come in, okay? So the F and the B chord. Now, the reason these chords are arguably some of the more difficult ones is because there's no open strings, all right? And when guitar players start learning these, it's actually what it is. They're not aware of this at the time, but what it is actually an introduction to bar chords, okay? So the previous chords that you have learned, at least in my series, all right, can all be played open. So C, A, G, E, and D. You're going to notice those spell out caged. That's important to note. That's going to come later, but it's important to note. All right. Now the thing is, you can't, in standard tuning, you can't play an F chord or B chord with an open string in the chord. All right. So you have to bar. All right. Now, when we say bar, what we mean is taking a finger, usually the pointer finger, and spreading it across. Essentially, what I'm doing when I do this is, if you can imagine the nut right here, because that's where the strings end, right? So if I make an open chord like that, in effect, my finger is here, the nut, right? And then I'm making those notes. A bar chord is essentially substituting, instead of the nut, your finger. Okay? So, let's start with the F chord. So here is an F chord right here. Okay, and the notes in the F chord are F, C, another F, A, C again, and the first string, the thinnest one on the bottom, an F. Okay? F, A, C. All right? Now the kick is that, as you've probably already noticed, that's an E, right? So really, all I'm doing is moving it up one, and then with my pointer finger, barring it. Once again. All right, so the notes in the F chord are F, C, F, A, C, and F. All right? Fun times. All right? So a trick with this one, and this is actually one of the harder ones, all right, is that E shape, which you've seen before, right? That's how you play an E chord. Like I said before, all I'm doing is bringing it up one. Okay? So it goes from E to F because there's no sharps or flats between an E and an F, okay? Now, each of the frets is what's called a half step. So if I was going from D to E, it would be D, D sharp / E flat, and then E. Well, it's the same thing here. That's an E, but because there's no sharps or flats between E and F, I'm bringing it up one, just one. All right. Now, it's not an easy chord to do. All right. I got a couple of tips for you, all right, to make it a little bit easier and to make the practicing it a little easier. The first one is, you're probably used to playing E like this, right? Well, instead, start playing it like this, all right, without your pointer finger. okay? Then it's just a matter of introducing the pointer finger, which bars the entire first fret. Okay? So that's the first tip. All right? Second tip is kind of cheating, okay? But a lot of guitar players do this, so I don't know if it's cheating then. All right? But essentially, use your pointer finger. It kind of looks like a C shape, only if everything's your ring finger and your middle finger have been brought down a string each, okay? So with your pointer finger, you actually cover these two strings, the B and the E string, on the first fret. Then this one, you go to the D string on the second fret, or the G string, I should say. And then this one is on the D string on the third fret. But you only play the bottom 4 strings. A lot of guitar players will kind of cheat and do it that way. Not a big deal. All right, but if you want to get the full sound, you're going to have to bar. Okay? So that's the F chord. All right? Now, the B chord. You'll notice that before I was using like an E shape and then just bringing it down, right? Okay? Well, the B chord kind of does something similar. You use the A shape, all right? So you'll probably remember that's an A, right? Now, there's a full step between A and B, and each fret only goes up 1/2 step. So what you're doing is going 1. Now it's actually B flat or / A sharp. Then you go up 1 more, and there's B. Now you got a bar. So you'll notice I'm taking my pointer finger, I'm pointing it on the A string, 2nd fret, and I'm letting the rest of it kind of lay on the E string. Now, I kind of have some improper technique here, I'm not going to lie. I kind of got used to just using my pinky, all right? But the proper way is actually with 2 fingers. All right? But honestly, whatever works for you, okay? All right? So, I'm just going to use my pinky again. So, what notes are in the B chord? Okay, well, we got B. All right? We have F sharp. We have another B. And then we have D sharp. I tend to kind of aim for just the 4 strings here. But you can, okay, you can bar the whole thing. It just adds 2 extra F sharps into the chord. All right? But I'd never really liked the sound of that. I just kind of like to use it like this. Okay? So, once again, not the easiest chord. I did find learning the B chord to be a little bit easier than the F one. I think the F chord kind of makes you stretch a bit more, all right? But, again, if you're having trouble with it, okay, remember A shape, and it's just bringing it down, and then focus on sliding it. Now, these 2 chords are among the trickier ones that you're going to learn. But it really is worth it, and here's why. Once you have mastered these shapes, okay, so the F shape, this chord, right, and then the B, here's the beautiful part. You can now, after you have that, you can play all of the sharps and all of the flats for all of the major chords. Ta-da! Makes it real easy, all right? This stuff's, I hope, it's starting to click, okay? So, like I said before, that's an A, right? then that's a B. Well, guess what? If I move it up one more fret, that's a C. And now if I move it up 2 frets, look, we're at a D. Another 2. Oh, look, it's an E. Now you'll remember there's only there's a half step between E and F, so we only go up one more. Oh, look, we're at an F chord. Now there's 2 steps between F and G. Oh, look, I'm at G. If I go up another 2, that's an A. That is exactly the same as that. They're both A chords. Just it's an octave up. All right? It means it's a little higher. So that's actually how a lot of guitar players are able to kind of navigate around the fingerboard with different chords and make them sound kind of cool, right? Okay? And the same thing with the F chord. This, right? If I go up 1, back to the first position where I'm not barring, that's an E. Now I go up 1, there's an F. Go up 2, that's a G. And then 2 more, there's an A. Another 2, there's another B again. All right. 1 more. There's only a half step between B and C. That's a C chord. Now I go up another 2. There's a D chord. And another 2. I'm back to E. All right. So by mixing and matching with these bar chords, okay, you can actually create different kinds of sounds when compared to open chords. So for example, all right, if I take a simple progression, okay, like D, C, G, keep it real simple, right? We can all probably do this. Real simple, right? Now let's say I'm in a band context and the acoustic guitar is doing this. Maybe I might want to do something a little similar that supports it. So I might go, using my knowledge of bar chords. Okay. So that's where a lot of guitarists are able to come up with some different chords, sharps and flats, and mess around with things. Okay, and I know it seems difficult, and truly, especially when you're a beginner, this is one of the harder skills to kind of wrap your head around and get your hands used to doing, okay, but it's totally worth it. It really does open up the guitar fretboard in a very nice way, okay? Now, before I mention caged, there's a lot going on in caged, but one of the things that is nice about it, all right, is that the chords C, A, G, E, D, you can use those shapes up and down the neck, provided you're barring, okay? The C shape, the A shape, the G shape, the E shape, and the D shape. I was just showing you the A and the E one because, well, those are the ones that are commonly used for F and B, all right? But if I go with the D shape, that's a chord. I'm just strumming 3 strings. But if I bring it up 2, that's an E. Another 2, F. Or another 1, That's an F. Another 2, there's a G. Another 2, there's an A. Another 2, there's another 2, I'm at B. 1, there's a C. And if I bring it up another 2, there's D again, all right? You can do that with the shapes of C, A, G, E, and D, all right? That's part of the cage system. I'm going to have to do a much more thorough video on that to explain everything where caged can come in. Caged really is quite helpful. All right, but for now, all right, you got to work on your power chords or your bar chords. Just try switching between them. Practice that. It's just getting your fingers used to going into those different kind of patterns. And then eventually, you can actually start using some typical like open chords and switch into those. C, B, C, B, G, B. Okay? Same thing with the F chord, all right? A, all right? Go back and forth, practice them, make them your friends, all right? Another little tip that I will give, this isn't necessarily for the B. People have a little bit of an easier time with the B chord, I think. The F one is where it gets a little tricky. And I think it's just because the frets, like that's the furthest the frets are away from each other, right? So you really got to stretch your hand. I'm going to give you 2 tips for this, okay? First off, all right, it's actually the back of the neck, okay? When I'm making that chord, okay, I'm actually taking my thumb and I'm kind of placing it right in the middle, all right? That's your friend, okay? So if I'm going like here, where my thumb is, that's a G chord, right? Then when I make an F chord, see where my thumb is? It's basically right in the middle of the neck, okay? And it just helps you to anchor it, all right? So that's one tip. Another tip, if you're practicing it, is actually to bring it up a little bit. Now keep in mind, you won't actually be playing an F chord, but we're just trying to get your fingers going into the right places, all right? The right notes, the right strings. The further up the neck can be a little bit easier because the frets are closer together, all right? So you don't have to stretch your hand as much. All right, so those are my tips for learning the F and the B chord. I hope I've been helpful. Please like and subscribe. I am trying to build up the channel a little bit. And yeah, let's keep practicing. You're well on your way. This is actually one of the hardest concepts, especially for guitar beginners, for them to master. All right, this is, frankly, we're getting into the difficult stuff. All right. So practice. You can check out the other lessons that I have. Check the description. I'll include links to all my previous lessons. But yeah, just start practicing. Going between the two of them, okay? Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither were guitar players, okay? It's going to take time. It's going to take practice. Keep at it, and you'll be fine. This is Sandy from Sandy's Guitars. Check me out on all the other social medias, Facebook, Instagram, X, and, what's the other one? TikTok. All right. Check me out there. And, yeah, like and subscribe for my next lesson. Thanks for watching. Take care.